What is up, family? Welcome into another edition of Make Every Second Count Live. Now, as you can tell, I'm still a little under the weather. My voice sounds a little horsey, so you'll have to bear with me. But we have an awesome guest tonight, and I'm pumped up about this. And I ask you guys if you would please share this episode out. Invite as many people to watch it as possible. And don't forget to give us all kinds of thumbs up, hearts, frowny faces, cry faces. You can even get mad at us. I don't care. But help us trick the algorithms on one of the socials that we're on. But also, keep the comments coming. We want to have more of a conversation than just make a presentation. So if you're wondering anything, ask it. If it's too personal, I won't ask it. But it's you asked it. So, all right. But with no further ado, I would like to bring to the stage Mr. Rob. Hey, Rob, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Jeff, doing great. Thanks for having me on.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Now, if you would like to go through a short introduction about yourself, I'm going to be inviting a few people on my phone so we can get this show going.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Rob Connelly. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and I help people find themselves within their life, connect with their values, and live according to their own values. I do this through coaching, and I do it through my music, my original music. And so, really have an interesting story about how I got to this place in my life that I'm looking forward to sharing with the audience tonight.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that very much. You did a fantastic job with the introduction. Now, I don't know if you know I don't know if you know about my story. So, let me fill you in a little bit on my story and then we will hop into getting your adversity on the stage of Make Every Second Count. So, when I was 17, I was involved in a very life altering car accident, and I spent 2.5 months in a coma and 3.5 in the hospital. They told me I wouldn't walk anymore, but I do. They told my parents they didn't know if I would ever come out of the coma, but I'm lucky I did. So, what I am saying is life has a tendency to throw things in the way, try to make it hard for us to climb that ladder of success. Has there been anything in your life that has gotten in the way and has tried to hold you back?
Yeah, I would say so. Uh, my story is kind of unique in some ways. I feel like I had to lose myself in order to find myself. And the point of realization for me was when I found myself hanging by my arms off an eighth floor balcony, having attempted to take my own life. Because I had been
Wow.
using alcohol that evening, I wasn't even aware how I arrived at that place. It was one of those sort of what happened moments. I woke up from essentially being disconnected from any visual awareness because of the picture of my four children's faces being flashed before me. I woke up long enough to pull myself over the balcony and fall asleep on the porch there on the eighth floor where I woke up the next morning.
Well,
So
that's good.
that's my low point.
Wow. That's crazy. I am happy that you didn't commit suicide because if you had, you wouldn't be able to share your story and help the world out through your story.
Absolutely.
So you were saved for a reason. Whatever that reason may be, you might believe in all kinds of different things. And I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong, but I know that people are saved for reasons. And you were saved for a reason because you had a higher purpose on this earth. So what did your low point involve besides the drinking and the suicide attempt?
Yeah, so I would say that up until that point in my life, I was 38 years old. I had pretty much been living a life where the navigation, the sense of identity that I had, who am I, was outsourced. It was not coming from within me. And so, uh, although a lot of authentic parts of me poked their way through, I was really not living a life of authenticity. And a lot of that was for religious reasons. I was actually a Christian pastor at the time of my suicide attempt, and also just in a number of arrangements, relationships, and a pattern of living that was really disconnected from my authentic self. And so we got to that place. I got to that place really not even recognizing that anything was wrong because I was following what other people expected of me. I was following what I had seen other people do with their lives who I thought had similar beliefs, and following the implications of my religious worldview, which I had had from my earliest moments of memory, having grown up in the church. And so I had no sense of self that was my own. It was all outsourced. And I believe it was actually my higher self that showed me the faces of my four children in that critical moment to reconnect me to my body, even though I had had enough alcohol in my system
Hmm.
for a balcony and not know it. For the 30 or 45 seconds that it took for me to save my life, I was very aware of what was happening. And I very clearly remember faces of my children, just before I woke up temporarily. And so I believe that that moment was a moment of me rescuing me. And that would play a huge role in.
Oh, that wasn't cool. So hopefully he jumps back in here in a minute. But we're discovering Rob's crazy story about how he discovered himself. And I'm really interested in finding out more about this. And I hope he comes back in shortly here. Hi, Dad. Hi, Mama Wood. Oh, wait, Mama Ring. Sorry, I forgot. There's no wood on that. It's good to see you guys both. Thank you so much for watching tonight. So, we're here with Rob, and Rob just told us all about his near death experience when he was a Christian pastor and he tried to commit suicide. He was so drunk that he didn't even realize he was on the patio of the hotel or whatever you want to call it. But I'm excited to learn more about this. We'll see here. He said he's coming back. So we'll just give him a minute here. And so I'm excited about this. And we are going to be learning his system to help you guys cope with the low moments in your life because we all have low moments. And we just don't have to hold on to those low moments. So hopefully, excuse me, his system teaches us a little bit more about how not to hold on to those low moments. Jeez, I sound like a farm animal. Horsey. I don't think that sounded like a horse, did it? Nah, this is fun. So, but we'll see. So as soon as he gets back in here, we will continue. And he is back in the house. So you were telling us a little bit about how you discovered yourself.
Yeah, so I believe that my higher self actually saved me from a suicide attempt by showing me the four faces of my children. And there was a time later on where I began to really deal with the implications of the life I had been living on a more reasonable basis. This is within maybe 10 months of that time frame. My marriage began to fall apart. I began to really engage in the process of religious deconstruction. There were multiple career pivots that had started. There was a number of changes that were just happening kind of in my life that I recognized I absolutely had no idea who I had become. And so there were a couple of books that really helped me at that stage as my marriage was ending that I had bought in previous years, never read. They just happened to be in a pile of books that had moved twice with me at that point. One is The Body Keeps the Score, which is a book that details the way that trauma works in the brain, the way that we actually adapt to survive scenarios that are not safe for us. And those adaptations are often not helpful themselves because they don't reduce the way that you should see that response reduce when the danger is gone. It becomes sort of a perpetual survival response, like a fight or flight response. And then the second one was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which really was a really critical component to starting to understand what happened to me that night on the balcony, to understand that in stillness, in absolute stillness, where I'm not looking at my phone, I'm not watching TV, I'm not reading a book, I'm not talking to another human, that in the silence, I actually can find myself. I can be conscious, but not thinking. And in that way, I began to find the higher self voice that I believe rescued me that night, which has become my navigation.
You are talking about meditation, if I'm not correct.
So meditation is one of the terms that is kind of a broad term, right? There's lots of forms of meditation. I would say, yes, this could be considered meditation, but it's more specifically presence with the self in the now. So, I'm not meditating on some form of sacred scripture. I'm not meditating on any form of external content. In fact, it's something that for me came quite accidentally. I ended up alone in a cabin in the mountains, made myself some coffee. 7 hours later, without any inputs, without any stimulation, I was developing the ability to hear this higher voice, which I believe is connected to the creative impulse that we all have when we're creative as well. Turns out the ancient wisdom traditions have a lot to say about this. So that's kind of how it all came together.
Wow, that's interesting. So, what exact? I hope this isn't going to sound like I'm making fun of you or anything, but I'm curious. So, what did that inner voice say? when you listened?
The inner voice had, for one thing, things to say that were very contrary to my cognitive mind. Very different than my thoughts, which were over here worried about how I'm going to pay my bills, thinking about the things that I've been through that hurt me, doubting my own goodness, spinning the hamster wheel, right? I can think a mile a minute, didn't do too bad on the intelligence test.
Oh, well, he dropped out again, so we're hoping he'll come right back. But this is an interesting story here, and I'm digging it. So I know one of the authors that he was talking about, El Elkhart Tolle, or you can find him on YouTube. But so who was the other author? The body
Bessel van der Kolk is the author of The Body Keeps the Score.
Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
That sounds like an interesting book as well. So I'm sorry, you were in the middle of explaining there and you dropped off.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know why we're having internet issues this evening, but yeah, so
Sorry.
it was very clear to me that the worry, the stress, the mental hamster wheel, connected to my ability to learn things quickly, which I've always had, my ability to analyze, my ability, move quickly through academic tasks, whatever. This was over here. But my inner voice was saying different kinds of things, which was, you are good. You are worthy of being loved. You are a person of integrity. You can make choices for yourself. And I found peace once I was able to separate the two. And what I've grown to be able to do now is the ability to access my higher self and my values and my principles.
Well, he dropped out again. He'll be back. So we're learning about his system here to talk to his inner voice, and it's telling him some very cool things. And he is actually giving us some resources to locate these people that tell the story of this inner voice. So, sorry, you can get back to your little explanation there.
Sure. And I'll just keep coming back. If I keep getting kicked out, I'll just keep coming back. I'm not giving up. This is too important. So the short version is, now I can access that connection with my higher self and my inner voice in a moment through nervous system regulation techniques, the ability to recognize when I'm being triggered by a traumatic event in my past or a wound from my past, and my ability to observe myself essentially going through some not relevant to what's happening in the exact moment that I'm in, so that I don't have to be taken down a path of just living in response to trauma, and check in with my higher self. Okay, who am I? What do I believe? What's important to me right now?
What do I believe? What's important to me?
To be able to check in with my higher self in real time within a moment and the ability to connect a and I think that's really a critical thing to try to explain to somebody who's trying to heal themselves, who's trying to make change happen in their life, is that you can actually become an observer of yourself and in a situation and be able to connect with something deeper that is you, internal to you, through these kinds of techniques.
Cold chill. That's so we thank you so much. I've had somebody else on this show that has suggested being an observer of your own life, and they talked about having to take a step away from a situation and then look at that situation from the outside. And I find that to be very neat. So we're having some technical difficulties tonight, and I apologize for that. I'm having some technical difficulties with my voice right now. As my voice cracks, I'm having some technical difficulties with my voice right now. It's fun though. It's been an interesting adventure. So I've been having some issues with my voice for probably 2 weeks now, and not sure what's wrong with it, but I think I'm losing it because of eating so many jelly beans. I love me some jelly beans. Sorry, Rob. I'm just talking off the cuff right now. Just
All good.
letting it go. So, if all right. So, first of all, I want to say that yes, we are having some technical difficulties because I don't know why, but we are, and I think this story is important for people to learn. But let's say that somebody else is struggling with something right now. Let's say they not making enough money and they're having issues buying food for their family. How can they use this process to help them through that low point?
I lost you, Jeff.
Oh, darn it.
I'm here and Jeff isn't.
Uh,
I'm going to guess what he was getting at is the idea that somebody is struggling, not making enough money. How do they begin to address? I think I lost you there for a second.
I haven't gone anywhere, so
I could see me, but I couldn't see you.
right.
You were saying somebody is struggling financially. How do they begin to turn that around within themselves? Is that kind of where you were headed?
Yes.
I think the first thing is to cultivate the belief that you are bigger than your circumstances. And I think that goes well beyond whatever the circumstance is. In the case of financial, quite frankly, our society puts such value on financial stability and status that it is one of the external outsourced identities that people struggle with the most. And
Oh, well, we'll get back to that in just a minute. So we're just talking. Oh, we're having some technical difficulties tonight. Whatever, it's all right, fine and dandy. But he was talking there about how you can look at your situation differently and view it as, well, I'll let him explain it because I'm not having a good time explaining it.
Fifth time's
All
a
right.
charm, Jeff. We're going to try this again.
Yep, sorry.
So the first thing is to really believe that you're bigger than your circumstances and that you are the only one that can define your identity. You can't let anyone or anything external to you define your identity if you want to change and heal yourself. And so that means that when the bill collector calls or the power gets shut off or the car gets repoed, that your life actually continues. Your sense of self is not attacked by that because your sense of self is bigger than all of those things. And I think if you don't have that belief, then you're going to have trouble really turning around in a meaningful way a chronic financial situation. And the reason I say that is I believe that what we actually believe about ourselves shapes what we're aware of, shapes our consciousness, and that shapes our experience. We believe that we're not worthy of being financially stable and successful if we believe that our current credit report or bank account or bill status is what defines who we are. If those things are bad, then we're going to stay stuck there forever, right?
Yeah.
But once we see ourselves as separate from what we're going through, again, observing yourself going through a circumstance, not simply reacting to, responding to the circumstance with your sense of self, then we can begin to put a foot up on the next level of stability. Then we can begin to be above, to live above the circumstance. And so I think it's really cultivating a belief set that is external to the circumstances, but that is deeply embedded within you and that only comes from you.
Now that seems strange to me because you said external, but then you're coming back to the internal. Because what you're saying is everything outside of you revolves around you, right? Or not?
No,
mean,
I think we are all having an experience of being human, and for each of us, it is central to us. But we are co-creating it together. So there are things that exist in a sense that are external, but we are bigger than them. Each of us are. I think we are beings that are having a human experience here in this reality, and so you know we must see ourselves as bigger than and external to the circumstances, but that is in itself an internal path, an internal viewpoint, if that makes sense.
yeah, it's all gobbledygook. So, but we're actually running out of time. So, I want to say to you, thank you so much for coming on here tonight. But I have one other question.
Sure.
What exactly does when I say make every second count, what exactly does that mean to you?
I think it's being present in the moment that you're in, being conscious of who you are and how you want to be in that moment.
That is a great answer. Thank you so much for that. But I need everybody out there. Oh, wait, first of all, before I do this, do you have any contact information you would like to give out to the people that are watching?
Absolutely. You can find my music and my coaching information at robconnelly.net.
robconnelly.net. All right, that's pretty awesome. Thank you so much for that. But so you have to do me a favor, and so does everybody out there this week, next week, and for the rest of your life. You have to make every second count. Why? Because you never know when those seconds will run out on your one life. I'll see you guys back here next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And until then, You have a great week. Thank you again, Rob.
Thanks, Jeff.